Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Councilmember Leach is absent. Approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the September 6, 2017 regular meeting. You all received them in your packet. Is there any changes, corrections, clarification? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 6, 2017 regular meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. This now brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Is there anyone here that would like to address the council? Is there anyone here that would like to address the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. This then brings us to our reports and presentations. 6A, Police Department Monthly Reports. Joe?
Mayor, Council, good evening. We got some August numbers for you. Pretty quiet overall. Calls were down a little bit. We had a pretty quiet August, pretty smooth rolling. A couple of the major highlights. We had 18 medicals, 8 juvenile problem calls. We found 8 open doors or windows around the businesses in town. We took 30 suspicious calls, so between activities, suspicious people, vehicles, etc. What else do we have? 9 different thefts, which is including some of them would be shoplifters up at different businesses. 13 alarms. We assisted about 15 other agencies. 37 citizen contacts in the evenings for the most part, and a couple of small amount drug arrests. Pretty quiet August. September is looking pretty quiet so far. We took care of that park splash pad. We got the rest or charges on that, so we wrapped that one up, put that one to bed too. So other than that, we're pretty good.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions?
Yeah, just one out of curiosity. What is the canine assist?
That's just when I assist either a different agency. So either, I think those were I assisted on search warrants with the task force.
Okay.
So I think 2 of them were search warrants, and then one was assisted state patrol.
Okay. The dog is doing the assisting. You're not assisting
Yep.
dogs. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, the dog is, canine, we label the canine assist separate from my proactive stuff, so, or
Right.
a different, as long, whenever we do a different agency, then we'll just call it a canine assist. So, 3 of those in August.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just, our new officer has been with on drive-alongs.
Yep, he's on his own, he's on what we call phase 2 right now. So he's actually driving the car, and then he'll be doing that through the mid-October, and he should be good to go. He's catching on pretty quick. So he's in full uniform, he's taking calls, and we're just trying to get him as many hours as possible, trying to get that experience under the belt. So he's on phase 2, where there's an officer in uniform sitting next to him in the passenger seat. Phase 3 will be, the officer will be in plainclothes riding with him. So then people, because what tends to happen, especially small town, is everybody's used to seeing the familiar faces. So the tough part is they see familiar face in uniform, they want to interact with us rather than the new guy because they know who we are. So that's why phase 3, a lot of times we'll just have someone in plainclothes for a while. Just supervising. So it's going good though.
Good.
Good.
Thank you,
Any other
Joe.
questions? Good job.
Perfect, thanks, guys.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Thank you.
6B, Planning Commission report. Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of my agenda. We had our meeting on September 12th, and at that meeting, there was a public hearing for the Lucas Zabel variance, which that is an action item a little later on the agenda this evening. We are having the Planning Commission review the fee schedule for 2018, and then the scrap metal day was held on Saturday, and the scavenger days on that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, those seem to go well. I haven't heard otherwise. And we had a lot of stuff brought up to the Civic Center again for the recycling. And we're also, still working on the comprehensive plan. I think we have a task force meeting coming up in October for that. And other than that, I have my August building permit report in the packet for you, the month of August chart, and then the 2017 building permit report by month, the totals of the value, building permit fee, state surcharge, and plan check, et cetera. So are there any questions for me?
Questions, comments? On the scavenger days, do we have any issues as far as stuff still sitting on the curb as Monday morning, or?
Well, they have, in the newspaper ad, it said they have that week, and then their garbage hauler will pick it up, or it's the property owner's responsibility to pick it up. There's always a few of those couches that show up, they've been sitting in the right of way for, a while now. But I haven't received any complaints or concerns about anything left on the curb. But I'm sure there'll probably be a couple things out there, but it seemed to go well.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
6C, Airport Board Report. Vicki?
So the airport board met on Wednesday, September 13th. This was its regular meeting. And a couple items on there. MnDOT has conducted the 5010 report, and that is the report. They'll come out and check for obstructions. They look at tree height and different things about the airport. The one thing we want to continue to work on is to get our based aircraft database updated on the MnDOT website, or on the based aircraft website, because the more you have, the better standing you are for grants. Our 2017 CIP project, which is the runway reconstruct, I have it is nearing completion. Well, earlier today, we had our final walkthrough, and checking all the lights, the beacon, the wind cone, all those different things. And there was a few little items electrically that they were fixing. Monday, they'll be putting down the paint so on the runway, but the runway can be open now. It just has a notum out there that there are no markings. Then Monday, it'll be closed as soon as we get the final that the paint is showing up, and they'll paint it, and then it will be done. And so that has gone quite well. We ran a couple days over. They had last Friday. They thought they were going to finish the electrical, and then we got a big downpour right in the middle of it. So, but other than that, it's going well. The PAPIs will not be operational until the FAA comes out and certifies them. And once we're up and running, then we now notify them, and then they'll make appointment, I guess, to come out, and then they get certified so that we can operate those as well. As far as some other things on there, we have some of the hangar door seals have failed. They get froze down in the winter is what happens, and then they get tore off. So we're going to do a door inspection on all those just to keep up on that. Both the land lease contracts have been adjusted because we built the new turnarounds. It took a little of the farmland away, so we adjusted the acreage for those. The fuel pump has been replaced, the belt again, the fuel is operational. And a couple other things on the capital improvement plan for 2018. Paving the entrance road is on the schedule, and so sometime in November we'll be in front of the city council with kind of approval that yes, we are going to go forward with that, but the airport board's recommendation is that we do that. And one of the reasons to do that is because MnDOT is still willing to fund a bigger percentage than they normally would, so that reduces our cost. And the other thing is the airport zoning ordinance is also on the schedule for 2018, but that has a different cost share with MnDOT, so we just need to verify that first. And the other thing on the runway is the 99s will do the compass rose. That's the big compass that they put on the apron, or on the taxiway, and that so people can calibrate their planes and make sure they're going the right way, and that's done by the 99s Club, and they'll be doing that in the spring. We just provide the paint, so. And I think that about covers the airport.
Questions?
Any damage? Oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm just going to ask if there was any damage from the storm last night up
No.
there. Good.
And I was gonna ask about the fuel pump, the belt has been replaced and the fueling up is operational, is that to where we had thought it would be?
Well, we've struggled with that fuel pump system to try to get the gallons per minute that they want, and we pumped 75 gallons in 4 minutes the other day, which is 18.9. We were getting 11, and we'd like to have 20, and so we're at 18.9, so I think that we're probably going to accept that. It's just a matter of something has caused this belt to fail, and whether it's pumping or vacuum or something, so we're still watching that to see if we can figure out what that is, so.
Okay, so that's still under scrutiny as far as,
Oh, it'll be under scrutiny for a while.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Move on to 6D, feasibility report for the North Project. Keith?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we'll have a brief presentation, hopefully reasonably brief presentation, on the 2018 Capital Improvements Project, which is on the north end there. I notice we have a lot of folks in the back row, so I think there's a lot of information I can provide, and they can take copious notes as they go through. Before we get started, though, I'd like to introduce you to one of my colleagues. He's right here, raising his hand. This is Chuck Bozer. Chuck Bozer is a new PE for us, and he is helped me a lot on this project, worked a lot on the project with me, so I wanted to have him here today, and he might be able to perhaps answer some questions, if appropriate, as we go through this. So just wanted to note that. Okay, this is the, I'm going to actually take this and try to walk around with this a little bit. This is the, I'll be providing the update on the 2018 capital improvements for our feasibility report. This is the project location map, shows where the project is. It is on the north side, essentially just south of the golf course on the north end. It is around the hospital area, as well as 2 alternatives, which I'll show a little more detail in a second, that is on Main Street and Lakeshore Drive. Just a little bit of existing infrastructure condition. Our water main in this area, it's original. It's 60 to 70 years old. There's an extensive 4-inch sizing that both lacks fire flow capacity and it also hinders our overall system capacity up there. Many of the water main, there's been many water main breaks over the years up there, so a lot of patching in the road. On the sanitary sewer side, that once again is original. It's approximately 70 years old in that area, so it's getting kind of long in the tooth. On the storm sewer side, the storm is severely lacking just in general in capacity and in coverage in the area. It essentially is non-existent in many large areas up there. I don't think that's anything new to you. Contributes to flooding issues that we have at Main and Lake Street itself. On the streets themselves, they're aging and they're losing their flexibility, which means there's a lot of cracking going on up there. The foundation's actually pretty good, and the evidence of that would be like rutting, those kinds of things, and we really don't see that up there, so it really is just old pavement that needs to get essentially replaced. And the good news, we have good foundation. As you probably know, it's mostly all sands up there, so really good soils. These are some of the project alternatives as identified by the council when you authorize this report. The gray area to the south there in the bottom end, that is what we're calling kind of our base project. So that is the Country Club to 4th Street North, Main Street, essentially all the way over to the lake in that area. So around the hospital area. Alternate 1 is what we've defined as Main Street from Country Club Road up to Lakeshore Drive. And then alternate 2 is Lakeshore Drive itself from Country Club Road around to Main, shown in the red there. The report looked at 4 different scenarios, project scenarios. Because of all those options, we have the base project itself. Scenario 2 has the base project plus alternate 1. Scenario 3 is a base project with alternate 2. Scenario 4 would be the base project plus alternate 1 and alternate 2. So we have 4 different project scenarios that we had to look at as a part of this. And there's also then a couple of storm, which makes really a total of 8 different scenarios that could be looked at for this. We're going to go into a little bit of the storm sewer improvements just to kind of show you this is the whole area that was looked at as it relates to the storm system for this area. And because we wanted to make sure that we have a plan in place for when Highway 71 is done, because this would be potentially impact and be adjacent to that. So we looked at this entire area that you can see here, and we also then have some scenarios of what we do on essentially the east side of 71 in the future in order to take care of issues over there, as well as to fully take care of the flooding problems that are on Highway 71 themselves down at Lake Street. I wasn't sure this was going to show up very good, but just an example, this kind of shows the model. This is all a hydraulic model that was worked on. Actually, Chuck did a lot of this working with me. A lot of different nodes and pipes and storm and ponds and those kinds of things in here. So it was a pretty extensive models and many different scenarios that we looked at for this. We actually refined most of those scenarios down to really 2 alternatives. We call them options in this case. Option 1, the reason they're not option 1 and 2 is just that they're the different types of options. So we just kept the option numbers that we had. Option 1 is actually one that you've seen before, is the trunk storm sewer drainage is routed essentially to the Sauk River. It really comes from across Main Street, if you recall, and it goes into some ponding areas that we had in the ballpark area. So that's really option 1 that you've seen before. Option 5 is the one that we talked about before to see if there's opportunities on the west side of Main Street. So that is the trunk drainage is routed to the lake primarily and mostly kept on the west side of Main Street. There's an infiltration basin there is one on Main Street North, and there's also one on 4th Street North. In both options, there's infiltration on the Main Street alternative to the north, and that would actually be on the golf course side of the road there. With option 5, there's then treatment devices similar to ones that we have actually just south of us on 4th Street South, as well as up by the hospital. They're called hydrodynamic treatment devices. But they are a specific device that the water goes through, and we trap our sediments and that in there before they discharge in the lake. Those are fairly expensive, but we used 2 of them with option 5, and it's kind of on the north end in the Lakeshore Drive area. These generally are the storm sewer improvements in the north end, and I forgot to bring my pointer, so I'm sorry, I'm going to kind of step in here just to kind of show. This is kind of the north end of it, in option 1. We essentially have storm sewer on Main Street that runs straight to the south through here and discharges over into that triangle area of Highway 71. We also have storm sewer that goes west on Country Club, and it comes down on Elm Street, comes east on 5th Street, down on Oak, and then straight across 71 to the other side. And then the south side of it, the extension of it, we talked about Main Street kind of on the north side where it flows. It actually goes into an existing ditch, sort of pond area on the what would be the southeast quadrant of Highway 71. We pick that up through here, it joins with the storm sewer here, and it comes into, this is that ponding area in option 1, ultimately discharges down here into this existing storm sewer system on Pine Street. So all that water is routed through here. And one of the things on the storm is we actually take a fair amount of the acres that currently run to the lake and we direct them elsewhere. So we're directing essentially some of that water to the river itself versus the lake itself. So that's one option. And we've talked about this in some previous updates. For option 5, a little bit different. We still have that Main Street up to the north, but it comes down to Country Club and then runs due west. and it actually comes down and into the lake, kind of currently where it goes now. It's just that there isn't a storm sewer in that Main Street area at this point in time. So there would be one of those devices up here on Lakeshore Drive. The other is there is some existing storm sewer that would be on this side on Lakeshore Drive. Once again, another one of those treatment devices at this discharge point. The rest of the storm water is essentially through here and drains down 5th Street. We collect at Main Street, and we come both directions, essentially to Oak Street, and then straight south and into this infiltration pond. This is existing lot that the city owns in this area. So we go basically into this pond and then back out of that pond again, and then that storm sewer, we pick up some additional on Main Street, and it comes down, it goes through that existing treatment device that's down here by at the end of 4th Street, kind of just south of the hospital through here, discharges into the lake. So that's kind of a distinctly different, in this case, we're taking basically all the water into the lake itself and utilizing several, one existing and 2 new treatment devices, as well as the infiltration pond in this area. Both of these infiltration ponds, I've got some pictures of them in just a minute, are looked at 5-to-1 side slopes. They're actually a little bit flatter than some of the ones we've done recently, so a little more gentle slopes through there. On this, we tried to do something to kind of show you an idea of what this may look like. And hopefully you'll get a sense. Some of this is vertical exaggeration because there's not really a lot through here, but you can get a sense. This is one option for option 1. I call it option 1A. This is a little bit of a smaller footprint, but a little bit deeper. I think this pond is 11 feet in total depth from the top to the bottom of it. In comparison, hopefully you'll see a difference. This one, hopefully you can see, is a little less. This is actually one that the footprint's a little bit larger, but it's 8 feet deep. So the bottom is pulled up 3 feet on this one. So it's a little flatter, a little more gentle rolling, if you will, for this particular option. So it gives you a little bit of a sense what that might look like. And then this gives you a little sense of what the other one in option 5 would sort of look like through here. Now that sort of edge closest to us, it just doesn't really show that very well. So, use this a little bit of a grain of salt, but that's kind of generally what it would sort of look like from this dimension. And we can flesh these out a little bit to make them hopefully a little bit nicer if we want to use them, perhaps for the public hearing if the council elects to move forward with that. Sewer and water for the projects really is pretty much replacing what's there now, so there really isn't anything. The only thing I'd really like to point out is on Main Street. One of the things we've looked to do is to try to provide some additional depth so that we can provide service for the golf course area. As you recall, we've talked in the Cates Estates project, there just isn't much utilities and everything is very shallow up there. We're able actually to find a fair amount of depth by actually coming all the way down here to 4th Street and relaying the pipe. Now this pipe would be replaced anyway, but we'd be relaying it at a flatter slope and deeper through here. And it provides the ability to provide better service for all the way up there, and that whole basically east side of the golf course would be able to be served through a pipe with this depth. So that's really about the only change for the sewer and the water, other than water would be upgraded to 8-inch mains, which is kind of our standard now, versus the 4-inch that's largely in this area now. Sewer-wise is exactly the same, just getting replaced with new 8-inch mains for those. So largely the same for what we have here, other than that one change on Main Street. For alternates 1 and 2, once again, it kind of shows that north end of how we can come run up and we can provide this whole area through here with gravity sanitary sewer service. We do have a trunk water main. Remember the extension of that 12-inch trunk that we have at Cates would run down through here. Now it only goes down so far, and we'll end up having to connect onto that and move that further to the south, likely with the Highway 71 project in the future. Otherwise, it's replacing alternate 2 on Lake Shore, is replacing the mains that are within the street. The sewer, actually, most of it is not in the street, only in this section up on that north end. The rest of it's actually down around the lake, so we're not touching the sewer through there, but the water would be replaced in this particular area. So Streetwise, I think that's the next one. These are our typical sections for the streets, and first of all, I'll look at sort of all streets except for Main Street north of Country Club, and that's kind of our typical 36-foot face-to-face streets through here, the same thing we've done in most other areas. Replaces pretty much what's out there now, essentially. Main Street, which is a new area because it's a rural section right now, the proposal for that is to do a 32-foot face-to-face roadway through here. We would have a bike or a walking path on the east side of the roadway, a 10-foot walking path through there. And we would no longer, as you can see, no longer have those ditches, no longer have that rural section. It would be curb and gutter through there. There would be on this side, and it's not shown as typical, but that's why I mentioned where the infiltration pond, that would be located in here. And it's a fairly shallow, it's only about 3 feet deep. It would be sort of a ditch on that side. It would be after the curb, a small boulevard, and then a little ditch through here. And that would be the infiltration areas through there. It's not the entire length, but it's a portion thereof of that side. So that's what's proposed for the streets. These are the project summaries. Now, you have a summary that's also in your council packet that further breaks down those costs into proposed assessed costs, city costs, and PUC costs. So you have those in your packet in front of you. These show just the total project costs. Essentially, it's ranging from $3.9 million on the base project up to just short of $5.7 million for the base plus both alternates. So that's your swing of the project. The assessment rates, typical single-family assessments, and those detailed things are in your report, so hopefully you got a chance to look through those. The detailed project costs and preliminary assessment rolls are also in there. We gave you kind of the worst case for those, so those are the base plus alternates 1 and 2 for both storm sewer options. So that's the costs and the assessment rolls that you have in there. They're the kind of the high end of things. We do have all the others. It was just your book would have got really, really thick if we'd put everything in there. So we kind of gave you that for information, but we do have the rest if it's desired to see that as we go. So with that, I will happy to address any questions you may have at this time. We do have this as an action item to receive the report and authorize a public hearing if the council so chooses later on in the meeting.
Okay. Questions now, or do you want to wait until we get to an action item? Have more time to think about what is
Yeah,
presented?
sounds good.
Okay, we'll wait till then. Move on to action items. 7A, approve resolution 2017-57, approving 2018 budget.
Okay, as you know, the City Council met on August 24th in the workshop to review the 2018 proposed revenue and expense budgets for the city. The primary focus of that meeting was to give staff the opportunity to present their budgets. This budget here in front of you tonight, or the synopsis, reflects the changes made at that budget workshop meeting. And then I also provided a detached fund-by-fund synopsis showing the revenues and expenses for every fund. Some of the project and bond funds have cash currently on hand, so we don't need, the revenues and expenses don't need to balance in those because we already have the funding to make those payments. The budget does reflect a 4% increase in the levy, and so we have that total increase of about $65,000 in the revenue side. And you approved the minutes from that meeting already at the last meeting, so you got to see the play-by-play of all the changes that you made. So did you have any questions on the budget itself or any further things that you wanted to change? What would happen if you adopt this tonight and then the next action is the levy? Then that would be certified to the county, and then notices go out to all the property owners and to tell them what the impact of this is to their property taxes. Then the public hearing comes in December, and that's when you make your final decision on the levy and the budget. So just kind of clarifying that. And the one thing, too, is that there were 3 capital purchases from the sinking fund that So those three items, if they were to be moved from the budget, they would come out of the Capital Fund 101 and make a change on that line item, not the line item above it. I know that there was some confusion on that when we had the meeting. Does anybody have any questions on the budget?
Questions? Pretty much went line item by line item,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the budget committee, or finance committee went over it and tweaked it just a little bit more. And like we said, this is a preliminary budget, so. If no one has any questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2017-57, adopting the 2018 preliminary budget for all funds and departments?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Dave. Any other last comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7B, approve resolution 2017-58, approving 2018 levy.
Okay, this resolution puts into effect the 4% increase in the levy that was in the budget that you just adopted, but I do have it broke down, how much is general fund, how much goes to each special revenue fund, and how much goes to each debt service fund. The total levy for 2018 would be $1,668,113, and that is the increase over the prior year. And this is what would be certified to the county.
Questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2017-58, adopting preliminary tax levy collectible in 2018?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Dave. Any other comments, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approve resolution 2017-59, setting public meeting for 2018 budget.
This resolution simply just does that. We have selected December 6th as the date that the city council will publicly discuss the budget and allow the public to be heard. We've traditionally held that meeting at the first meeting of the month during the regular meeting, and so we're recommending that that happen again this year. So resolution 2017-59 schedules the public meeting for December 6th.
Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2017-59, scheduling December 6, 2017 as the date the council will publicly discuss the budget and allow the public to be heard?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2017-60, granting variance for side yard setback.
The Planning Commission, acting as the Board of Adjustment, held a public hearing on September 12th to hear the request of Lucas Zabel for a variance from the zoning ordinance on his property at 111 Lincoln Street. Specifically, the request was to allow a setback of 2 feet from the side yard, which is the north property line, where 5 feet is required. If approved, a 28 by 40-foot detached garage would be built on the property. The Planning Commission voted to recommend that the City Council approve the variance request. I did include in your packet the variance request application and also the certificate of survey showing the placement of the garage, and it would be placed from Lincoln at the same setback as the existing home. And then it encroaches back on that setback. You can see the setback is at an angled line along the Wobegon Trail, or the property line is an angled line along the Wobegon Trail. So his side setback is not against another residence. It's against that state property. And as I said, the Planning Commission did recommend that the variance be granted, and I did include Resolution 2017-60 in your packet, identifying the practical difficulties, and also there was a condition, the exterior shall be sided with matching materials and color, and then also the variance becomes void if not acted upon in 1 year.
Questions? Comments?
The size of the structure doesn't seem to match what shows in the map. description says 28 by 38. The map is showing, well, it's showing, looks like 30 by 40, but it's been changed to 28 by 40.
It's 28 by 40 on the survey.
Well, if you look at where the arrow, this isn't in color. It was 30 by 40, right? And then you reduced it to 28.
28 by 40.
28 by 40.
By 40?
28 by 40.
Okay, I'm just looking at the, the other description says 28 by 38.
Well, the 28 by
Well,
38
option
was
one,
option
option two,
1,
so,
and that's the
okay.
one they did not go with.
Yeah, I guess there's two options on there, all right.
Right.
Any other questions, concerns? Considering it's up against the trail and it's not affecting any of the neighbors, I think it's a good
Right.
point that the planning commission passed this, so. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2017-60 granting variance to Lucas E. Zabel?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions or concerns? Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resolution 2017-61 declaring property excess and authorizing sale.
Okay, the Sauk Center Police Department has received releases from Stearns County Attorney's Office to offer 4 vehicles that are impounded for sale. It's a 2008 Kia Sedona, 2002 Dodge Caravan, a 2010 GMC truck, and a 1992 New Yorker. And so what we're looking for tonight is for the council to pass Resolution 2007-61, declaring the property as excess and authorizing the advertisement for sale.
Questions? This is something that we do on a regular basis, so I don't see anything out of ordinary on it. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-61 declaring property as excess and authorizing advertisement for sale?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7F, approve resolution 2017-62, receiving feasibility report and calling for a hearing.
This goes back to the feasibility report that Keith Yap presented earlier this evening. And the process moving forward then is the city, when you're ready to accept the feasibility report, and you would call a hearing on the improvement. And you'd set that out like 30 days, and then we would notify all of the people in those neighborhoods that they could come in and they could hear a presentation, ask questions before the city actually would decide whether or not to do the improvement or not. Before we get quite that far, there's a couple decisions that need to be made. You know, we need to know, are we going to take option 1 or 5 on the storm? Are we sending it to the ballpark pond, or are we sending it to the 4th Street pond? So you've got that. And then also the scope of the project. Is it the base, or is it the base plus 1 or both of the alternates? So that's kind of the discussion you need to have to decide which part of that project is going to, or which part of the project you want to do, or the scope of it, I should say. And then if you make that decision and you're comfortable setting the public hearing, we can do that. If you're not ready to do that, you know, we could have a workshop to get more details if you don't feel you have enough information. So I don't want you to rush into a decision if you're not ready or comfortable with it. But we do have kind of a timeline. We need to keep moving forward on it so if this is going to be a 2018 project, because as you know, there's a lot of design engineering and bidding and everything that has to happen. So I don't know what your thoughts are, if you have any more questions for Keith.
Yeah, I know first thing, just to make it simpler, we gotta decide where we're gonna send the stormwater. You know, personally, going to across the other side of Main Street, to me, doesn't make any sense, because I think it's just setting the city up for another project when we might not be ready for it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to get mixed up in the Highway 71 project. I don't want to say we're going to send it there and then discover.
Right.
And now we're backed up there.
Right.
I agree.
The one question had is, I don't like holding ponds, period, but sometimes you have no choice. And maybe Keith can answer this question. If Okay, we're gonna have a holding pond, say, on Fourth Street.
Correct.
In that vacant lot, but we're still gonna have a, treatment catch
treatment
basin or
devices, yep.
whatever down at the end where there is one now.
Yeah, we're going to continue utilizing the one that's there now.
Okay,
And
so
then,
if we eliminate the holding pond, is that treatment catch basin or whatever gonna be able to handle the extra flow and spare the expense of a holding pond?
no, 'cause with the watershed rules as they are, now granted, we have to go through the actual permitting process, but based upon the rules that they have and the infiltration that they're looking for, requiring, we would need to have the infiltration basin in order to take care of that, for that as well as the other two devices that I discussed earlier as well. It's possible when you get into permitting, particularly the two new devices, that maybe one or two of them might not have to go in, but we won't know that until we get further down the road. They are kind of spendy, as I said, about $150,000 each. So, you know, if we could even eliminate one of them, that would be a savings that we could realize. But it's based upon what their current rules require at this time.
Okay, so is there different size treatment or catch basins out there? to handle
Yes,
all
yeah.
the
They're
water?
sized based upon the flow that you're putting into them.
Because I was thinking, if we can eliminate a catch a holding pond and run more water into it and just increase the size of that treatment area, it's gonna solve the same
I
problem.
guess I would, and Keith, you would know better, but I would venture to say that that current storm scepter, or whatever you want to call this, probably already undersized for what's taken place in that neighborhood since it was installed.
It could be, I don't think we looked at that directly as how it is all by itself, sitting there now. I recall when we looked at, I didn't do the design, I did some review of that. My recollection is that it was properly sized for the runoff that we had at the time. Now, I think there is a little
Yeah,
more
and there's
impervious area.
3 houses
Yeah.
missing now.
There's 3 houses missing, but there's parking lot, there's some other areas, so, you know, it might be a wash, but it's probably not far off from what it was originally, which is why if we take the stuff out, we can treat some of it and then run that water back through there essentially. And we've looked at the sizing based upon what would be going there with the treatment, and the sizing would work in our opinion at this stage.
The other question I had is, how deep was that holding pond gonna be in
That one is about, Chuck, do you remember, is that nine
9
feet
feet?
deep?
Yeah,
Yep, 9 feet deep.
9 feet deep.
Yeah, and that may be one that, because of its location, that if we, go forward with that maybe a fence around that could be something the council wishes to consider. That is 5-to-1 slopes on that one, correct? Yep, so it is 5-to-1 slope, so it's fairly gentle. They are meant to be dry ponds, so they are meant to infiltrate. But with that being said, especially in the springtime when you get, the freeze thaw, there may be water that is building up in there and freezing and staying in there because the ground's frozen. So that's the time when there could be some water that's standing in there until such time as the ground unfreezes and it lets itself go,
The main reason is I don't like ponds is because the one at Getty and Beltline, that thing never drains.
Yeah.
So
That's a little different soil. That's pretty tight soils down there. These ones are high infiltration rates through them, so I would not anticipate that there's going to be water sitting in any of these at all, other than those frozen ground conditions. That would probably be the only time, but it's all sugar sand up there, so we would definitely not anticipate that water would be sitting in those ponds.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Basically, I guess right now we need to decide what's the council's feeling on which direction we want to take the stormwater.
I think we take it west.
I agree.
I think we just don't want to
Okay.
put it into a place where we have to
Alright.
deal with it again.
So basically, option 5.
Okay,
Then,
got that noted?
the next one would be the base area, which is, I think, is pretty much a gimme on that one. The only question I had on that one was, the alleys are all dirt right now.
They're
And
gravel,
I
yeah.
know there was talk about tarring if we did reconstruct, but is that something the council would look at? Because Vicky brought it up, alleys, it's listed in here at 50/50 assessment. Actually, alleys are 100% landowner. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is if we do tar the alley, and there's one alley that has infrastructure in it, that if we put tar over the top of it and we have any settling at all, they're not gonna have a nice tarred alley. It's gonna be broken up, and then that means it could be a second lift, and then we're gonna end up costing us more money. So one of the things that my concern was is if we wanna stay with that tarring alleys, or if we wanna just do what we gotta do and eliminate the tar.
Yeah, I don't think we tar the alley. If it's 100% homeowners,
Right,
I mean, it's like tarring your driveway. It's your call.
right,
I agree. I agree.
okay. All right, so does that help you with that part? So the base
Yeah,
area?
absolutely, we can keep it out. I mean, that's one thing you could bring up at public hearing time as to whether those
See if they
residents
want to.
wish to do it. That would be the appropriate time to do it.
Right.
So that could be something that could really be up to those landowners themselves, sort of a subset, if you will, of the project.
See, what I can see happening is you're gonna have 15 properties, and 7 of them are gonna want it tarred, and the other 8 are gonna say, forget it, and then it's up to us to decide whether or not it's gonna happen again, and
Yeah.
either way, we're not gonna be on the right side.
I know the
The
answer
one
to that
thing I
is,
would ask
it's
is
not overwhelming,
if
then
we
it's not
do
happening.
put an impervious surface on that, is that going to go towards their, storm sewer assessment? I mean, the tax?
Well, as of right now, Class 5 is considered impervious.
Right. So
So
it wouldn't
It wouldn't
change.
affect anything.
So it would not affect.
It would not change, no. And just your point about if we did pave it, generally we wouldn't put on that last lift until the next year like we do on streets, so, to alleviate any risk of settlements through there. But it certainly could be a separate issue, and we can make adjustments to the preliminary assessment rolls for, essentially pull it out at this stage, and then we can put it back in. The reason I had it in there, just because we have talked about alleys, and that was what I believe the council's desires was to move towards paving them, which is why I went that direction, just so you kind of know my thought process anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So basically, we're gonna go with the option 5 on the stormwater and the base area. Next decision is whether or not we're gonna go with alternate 1, alternate 2, or both. Alternate 1, I'm more proactive. I think we're gonna have increased traffic with that new apartment house up there. Also, putting water and sewer main in is going to be something that,
Necessity.
well, I know it's been said that, well, there's nothing happening, there's nothing in being planned or anything on either side, so why should we spend the money to put water and sewer in there? But yet, if it is in there, are we being proactive enough that it could happen quicker? And increase the Sauk, the tax base by more houses, because now they don't have to wait for us to go through the process to put water and sewer in when they are ready to do something on either side? It's,
I agree with you. I think that area is going to be developed. I mean,
Right.
you'd have to be sticking your head in your sand to think that nothing's going to happen there in the not too distant future.
and the city's been accused of doing that,
Yep.
so. Not being proactive enough to be looking at the future, and I think.
I agree.
So I would, my personal opinion, I'm not gonna speak for the rest of you, I think option
No, we're gonna hold you
alternate
to
A.
it,
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna
That's
hold
what
you
I'm
to it.
sitting here for.
though. No, Warren said that.
Yeah. You heard it.
So is alternate 1 on the table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think alternate 1 is definitely,
Okay, so alternate
I
1.
think by consensus, I see, we will make sure that that's included as we move forward.
Alternate 2, around Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
That one there is strictly water main, the sewer we're
Mo-
not
Primarily
touching.
water.
That, according to the PUC, is 1963, I think they said that was put in. So it's about 15 years newer than what the base area is as far as, so do we want to touch that now, or do we want to wait?
It makes a pretty nice break area. You know, I mean, it's not like there's a lot of stuff between one end of that and the other.
True.
I think we don't have to put that in. We could do it later. And I don't know what's happening on that side at all.
And I haven't heard anything as far as the mains breaking in that area. If we got decent service and stuff, maybe we can wait a few more years until, well, or maybe the west side of the old golf course develops
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
thinking.
forces us into
That'll
it.
come
But
later.
for right now, I think the age, yeah, it's borderline. But as long as we're not having any issues, do we want to throw that extra expense on the,
For added information, the Lakeshore Drive is really in the best shape in terms of roadway as well, so it's not that poor through there.
true?
I'd wait on that one.
My feeling is that we let alternate two
Yeah.
slide.
Let
Yep,
that slide.
agree.
Okay,
Okay.
any other discussion? You got any questions for us? or-
No, so it looks like base, alternate one, storm option 5 will be
Five.
what will move forward. I think there was some question as to if the council had any desire for, a workshop or a public informational meeting prior to a public hearing, if you felt that was something that would be helpful, warranted, or not. We've done that before. I would say the results were mixed as to whether it was all that
Right.
worthwhile. I imagine certain individuals would probably say it was great, and certain would say no, so, but that's just
I think
kind
with the public hearing, when we get to that point and everyone gets their notice, I think that would be enough.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of questions that I need a workshop for.
Yep.
so-
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on what the assessments come in at, though.
Well, right, but then they'll see them for that public hearing, to have a separate
That's
public
true,
meeting,
and
they're,
We'll be able to set something up
Right.
at that point, I would assume.
Well, we could, I mean, you could set that up even at the next meeting if you thought, you could think about it for a week or two, and if you decide you want to call a public informational meeting, that could be done prior, well, depends on I can't remember when we have the public hearing, if it's the second meeting in October or the first one in November. If it was the first one in November, we'd have a chance. If it
yeah,
was,
I'm thinking we were
I
leaning,
just
First weekend in-
think we have to
first
be
meeting
as
in November.
transparent as possible on
Right.
this, 'cause this is gonna
the only thing is in a public meeting, when we do that, it's nothing really formal. So
No.
we can discuss it with them,
Yeah,
but it's, nothing that's gonna be able to be changed in black and white. So,
yeah, and I can live with that, too.
not that I,
Just-
against talking to the public, it's just,
Exactly.
is it going to help or is it gonna hinder?
Yeah.
right.
No, that's
Okay.
fine with me as long as,
but the only other thing is I wanted to, excuse me, I'm sorry. The only thing I wanted to mention, I forgot in the presentation, is we've talked about this in updates, is recall this project in and of itself does not fully resolve the flooding issues on 71. So just wanted to make sure that
Right.
that's clear and so the public can hear that as well.
Yeah.
It is about a 40+% reduction in the issues there, but it really is going to take 71 till we can get rid of the problem. But we
Right.
will make it better with this project.
I think the Highway 71 project is that's what's gonna solve the main problem of what we
Yeah.
got with Lake Street and Main Street.
And with the modeling we've done,
I
we
certainly
have,
so. Good Lord.
with the modeling we've done, we already have essentially the solution for, so everything is laid out.
Right.
Not in plan level detail, but in planning level, it's already figured out, so we know what we need to do for that.
Okay. Well, any other discussion? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-62, receiving feasibility report and calling for public hearing on the improvement with the base area, stormwater option 5, and alternate 1.
So,
A
Second.
motion by Keith, second by Diane. Do you, Vicky, did you want the date of the public hearing included in this motion?
Yeah, we'll just, because we'll have to fill it in on the resolution.
Okay, so first meeting in
In
November?
November 1st, okay.
Okay. First meeting in November will be included in part of that motion.
Okay.
Questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7G, approved pay application number 3, Kramer Excavating.
This is a third pay request we've had from Kramer Excavating for the airport project. This request is for $898,693.02. And as up to this date, we've paid $504,000. So we're right at 1.4 so far paid. The total contract is 1.891. So we'll have another pay request 4 coming in, and then there'll probably be a final following that. But I don't know if we'll have it yet for the next meeting, but possibly the next one, so. But this request is to approve pay request 3 for the airport project to Kramer Trucking and Excavating.
Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve the pay request number 3 for airport project, Kramer Trucking and Excavating Incorporated?
so moved.
Motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business, we have no new business. That now brings us to our consent agenda. Schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $913,165.53. Paid claims of nothing, for a total of $913,165.53. August checks, paid claims and payroll of $1,539,184.93. Resolution 2017-63, accepting a contribution from Dave and Mary Thomas for $1,250 be allocated toward the ambulance for Christmas decorations. I want to thank Dave and Mary on that contribution on behalf of the city. Is there any other questions, concerns on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Informational items, we have none. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Dave. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.